I'm here with Steve and James from Hammock, and today we're going to be looking at how Hammock can help you and your landlords automate their bookkeeping software and be MTD compliant. So hello, Steve and James.
Hey, Simon.
Hello, boys. And I can't wait to get started. Without further ado, I will shut up and hand you over with a virtual round of applause to Steve and James. Go, Steve.
Thank you, Simon, and hi to everyone who's joined us today. As Simon was saying, look, if we've got some questions coming through, I'm here to answer the stupid questions. We've got James, who's far more technical than me, who's going to do the more advanced ones. So, quick introduction. My name's Steve Reynard. I've recently joined Hammock as Head of Business Development. I'm joined in the call today by James, who was actually the first employee that Hammock had way back several years ago now. We're looking forward to taking you through Hammock today. And the reason, just a quick bit of background on me, I've spent the last 6 years in the industry working at Quickbooks. And the reason I joined Hammock was what I was finding was I was getting lots and lots of accountants on a weekly basis saying that a lot of the more traditional bookkeeping solutions, your Quickbooks, Xero, Sages, they're excellent for the majority of their clients, but there's certain niche sectors like landlords in particular, farming, medical, construction, etc., that need a dedicated product for that. That's what Hammock is. It's built by landlords for landlords. I'm going to pass over to James now. He's going to take you through a full demo and then answer some questions throughout and then come back to me just for a wrap up and pricing at the end. So I'm going to pass over to James, and thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, morning everybody, and thanks Steve. So as Steve said, I'm James. I work in the business development team, and I have actually been at Hammock since the very start. I think what's important to note is, when we started Hammock, we built this for landlords. So I'm a landlord, my CEO is a landlord, our head of tech is a landlord, and we were building this to solve the problems that we felt managing our properties. And it really is only through a very natural process that so many of our clients, accountants, started contacting us directly to say, my client, John, who I usually have to chase 3 times in January, and he gives me a rubbish spreadsheet, which makes no sense. He's just sent me something in June, unprompted, and it's great. And he told me he got it from Hammock. How can I access this directly? And that's when we started realizing that there's a huge opportunity here for accountants. And actually, the accountant side of our business is now by far and away the biggest side of our business, and we are, the leading supplier of for landlord software. And you say if you want to give a better service to your landlords, and you also want to get them ready for MTD, this is a really easy to use and affordable solution. So with that all being said, I'm going to take you through a demo now. I like to do these demos really in 3 stages. So first, I'm going to show you the bits that are really for you and the landlord. So these are kind of the bookkeeping and the banking side of things. Then I'm going to take you quickly through your dashboard. So how you as the accountant actually manage your clients. And then I'm going to come back to the landlord platform and show you a lot of the things that, whilst you might not use them day to day, but these are the things that are just for the landlord. And they're the things that actually keep them engaged and keep them coming back. And they also will allow you to give additional insight and advisory to your landlords about their property business. So even if you've got clients who maybe he's a plumber and he's just got one property on the side, doesn't think of it as a business, but, because of MTD, they're going to have to start doing so. So, this is Hammock. I'm starting you off on the properties page purely because I think it really speaks to what I said at the start, that this is a landlord platform. It doesn't probably look like any of the more generic bookkeeping tools you've looked at. And you can see here, as soon as you add a property, we go into Google Images and we pull an image of the property. It gives that wow factor, and landlords are immediately drawn in and actually want to use the platform. I also kind of want to show you here, you can see at the top that I've actually got 3 portfolios and 4 properties. And the reason for that is, I've got different ownership structures here. So this, 11 Newcastle Road, that's in a portfolio that I own with my wife. She owns 75% and I own 25%. Then I've got a couple of properties in my personal name. So these are just in my personal portfolio. I own them outright, and that's all mine. And then finally, I've got one in my limited company. And the reason I think this is important is because I'm sure you've got clients who have different ownership structures, and it's important to know that you can manage them all within, the landlord can manage them all within one Hammock license. And then it's only when we get to the tax statement, when we split this out for you, that you will get the data separated out the way you want. But for the landlord, they can just put everything in one place, and it's really easy. And you'll see, first of all, one of the key big insights you're going to be giving your landlords is the ability to see exactly how much money they're making on each property. So you can see your income, your expenses, and your profit on a property by property basis. And that might sound quite straightforward, but you'd be amazed how many landlords, even landlords with 2 or 3 properties, they might know overall how much money they make, but they actually often don't know the breakdown per property. Sometimes they're even surprised to see that one of them is losing money. And if they do have any arrears, so if their tenants are behind on the rent, we'll also highlight that as well.
James, just before you carry on, just to get clarity on that, because there was a couple of questions around the structures. So you can do partnerships, limited companies, and sole ownership. And there was a specific question from Hassett around whether an LLP could be set up on Hammock. Can you do LLPs?
Yeah, you can set up your portfolio however you like. So you've full flexibility. You can have as many different partners, as many different owners, many different percentages. So yeah, you can literally do anything.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And yeah, but obviously, where do these figures come from? And for that, we're going to jump over to the transaction screen. So, you're all accountants here. I'm sure you're all pretty familiar with open banking through whichever platform it is that you tend to use. Hammock is no different. In the open banking sense, you can connect as many different bank accounts as you like, and then all of your transactions start feeding through. Now, one key difference with Hammock is, as well as open banking, we do also provide our own current accounts. So, say if you want to, if you've got those clients who you've been telling for ages, you really should stop using your personal account for your property stuff, put it in a dedicated account. This is actually a great opportunity to do that. So if you do want to get them to do that, it takes about 5 minutes to actually apply for the account, and it takes less than 48 hours to open. The big benefits of that are, as I said, the separating out your personal from your property, but probably an even bigger one is that, with open banking, you have the 90-day reconnect rule. Obviously, with an integrated current account, you do not need to do that. So you never need to reconnect. That being said, whichever option you choose, whether it's open banking, current account, the key thing is that the transactions are feeding through, and then we can track and categorize them. And you can see here, these transactions in green, you can already see the category here. You can see which property or tenant they've been linked to on the right-hand side. And then the ones that say click to track, these are ones that actually haven't been tracked yet. It's really simple. Any of these transactions, you just click on it. So you can see here, this is an expense. So it brings up all the expense categories. All of these have subcategories, but you can also see we have a search bar, so you can actually search for categories as well. But let's just say this is, let's say it's an insurance.
James, just before you do that, I've got a question from Craig around that 90 days. And I think you answered it just after Craig asked the question. But Craig said, is there a 90-day reconnection requirement?
Yeah, so with any open banking, and this is not just Hammock, this is a legal UK government requirement, the open banking connections can only last for 90 days. So you would always need to reconnect with open banking. As I say, if you're using a Hammock current account, there is no reconnection, because that is, it's a UK current account with an account number and sort code that's fully integrated with our software. So then you don't need to do that. Brilliant.
Thank you. And thank you for the question, Craig.
Thanks, Craig. So here, this is one of my insurance. I obviously can choose any type of insurance, all again tailored to landlords. So let's say this is my rent guarantee insurance. I can then link that to whichever property I want to, and then click save. And you can see straight away, this is now categorized as my rent guarantee for 23 New Church Road. But obviously, and the great thing about Hammock, once you've tracked the transaction once, If that's a regular payment, Hammock will just start tracking that automatically going forward. But equally, I probably, I might have been paying this every month, and I might want to go back to the start of the tax year, and I don't want to have to go through and do one by one. So actually, we offer you two ways to track those historical payments as well. And I'll take you through them both, but I'm going to start with this one. So you can see here, it says similar transactions found. So if I just click here, view matching transactions, it basically just Hammock automatically goes through my entire bank feed and pulls out anything that looks the same. And you can see here, here's my September, August, July, etc. These are going all the way back to 2018. So I can actually just select all of those and hit track. And so I've just done 3 years of my insurance payments in 30 seconds. And I say going forward, they'll just track automatically. It's exactly the same with income. So once you've added your properties and your tenants, you can start tracking your rent. So I'm actually going to use the filters here. So I can search for a keyword. So I'm going to search for TSB because I know that my tenant puts TSB at the start of the payments. With any rent payment, there's almost always like a surname or a name that they'll have put, so you can always find them. And you can see I've got all my rent payments here going back to the start of the tenancy in December. And I can literally just click on any of these. Again, now I get the income categories. And this time I'm going to select rental income. Again, select the property. I've only got one tenant in here, so it auto selects and I hit save. And this is now tracked rental income, 23 New Church Road, linked to the right tenant. But obviously, again, I want to track all these other payments as well. So this is where I can use the other option here, the search and track. So because I've already filtered, I can just click search and track, and then all of these become tickable as well. So I'll just hit select all and update 10 transactions. So you can see just like that, again, I've done all my historical rents, and going forward, that will track automatically. As a landlord, I just start getting notifications letting me know that my rent's been paid. And actually, if my rent isn't paid on time next month, I'll get a notification that it's late. So that's the kind of level of additional service you can offer your clients here. Now, I've already shown you that we...
Sorry, James, just before you go on to that, we've got a question from Jenny. Jenny's asked, how does it deal with the net of fees income coming in from rental agents? And that's a problem that I've got with my own rental properties. So obviously the net amount hits my bank account, but the agents already took an extortionate amount of money away from my rent before they paid it to me. So how do they deal with that?
Amazing question. It's almost as if I paid somebody to ask that at the perfect time, because that is literally what I'm about to show you. So
okay, I'll shut up and disappear.
I love it when somebody asks the question for the thing that I'm about to do. It's brilliant. So yeah, thank you for that. So I'll quickly show you. To lead to that, let me take you to the tenancies page. So as well as showing you the P&L per property, we also show you the rental history per tenancy. So you can see here, I've got all my different tenants, some are in arrears. James is the one that we just tracked. So if I just quickly show you James, so with this one, I've set this tenancy up where they pay me directly. So there's no agent involved. So you can see they're at 23 New Church Road. The rent is $420 every month. From December 20. Now, just with that information, Hammock automatically creates this rent table starting in December, and it shows you, right, how many transactions occurred in that period, what rent was due, what's the total that was received, and therefore what is the balance. And so, without you doing anything, this automatically shows you this. Now, if I use a letting agent, the only difference, and let's have a look at moving on, is when you set up the tenancy, there's a question, do you use a letting agent service? And in this instance, I've put yes, and then it will say, okay, how much are your fees? So you can see here, the rent here is £400 every month, but my agent fees, 11% plus VAT or whatever, calculates out at 53.65. So Hammock already knows that. And just like before, I've got this rent table, and you can see September and October, I've left untracked on purpose, so I can kind of show you how we deal with letting agent payments. Because, to the question that came in, it's really painful on most softwares to handle the net payment coming in and having to gross it up. But Hammock, because we're tailored for the landlords, we do it automatically. So let me find that September payment. So I should say this is dummy data, so ignore the fact that it says child tax credit over here, or you can even imagine that's the name of my letting agent. But this is the payment we're interested in, right? This is the £400 rent minus the fees, and then the rest is passed across to me. So again, if this is the first time I'm doing it, I'll click on that transaction. I select rental income, I select the property, and I hit save. And you'll notice a key difference here. Instead of this just saying rental income 346, it says multiple track transactions. And that's because Hammock automatically breaks this down into 3 kind of child transactions. So the 346 is assigned as rent, then Hammock automatically creates the fees, and then it creates a top up to offset those fees. So net, this is your 400 in, and this is your £53 out. So your P&L is correct and your tax statement is correct. And now I don't know if somebody is asking this question in the chat, because you're probably thinking, okay, this is all well and good, but what about if there's some repairs on the property, which is obviously another really common occurrence. So let's have a look at October. So if I jump to October, and let's imagine this 137.60 is what I get in October. So maybe there's been some repairs on I had to fix the roof, and so I haven't got as much rent as I normally do. So this is a transaction that you would have to do manually, so it wouldn't track automatically, but it's really simple. I just click on this transaction, again, rental income, select the property, and you can see straight away Hammock knows this rent is less than expected. Do you want to create an expense for the remaining £208? And I can just say, yes, I do. Then I just select the category. It could be anything here. Generally, at least with letting agents, it's usually maintenance or fees, so let's go maintenance. And then within maintenance, got all these different categories, could be a gas cert, etc. Let's go with repairs and just hit save. And so it does the exact same thing again. It still creates your letting agent fees and tops your rent up, but it also creates this repairs and tops your rent up. So, without you really having to do anything, it automatically grosses everything up and gives you the expenses you need. And then for any transaction, you can then add a note. So, if I'm the landlord and I just quickly want to say here, like roof fixed, see invoice details. Save that note, and then if I want to, I can attach the invoice here as well. I can just drag and drop it or find it on my computer and attach that in there as well. The other great thing about Hammock is everything I'm showing you here is available on the mobile app as well. So once your landlords are kind of set up, we'll obviously always encourage them to download the mobile app and use that to use Hammock on the go. And with the mobile app, if they want to attach the receipt, they can literally just take a photo of the receipt on their phone and attach it straight to the transaction, which is obviously really, really nice. And that is tracking and categorizing it. It is as simple as it looks. It's pretty much you click where you think you need to click and go from there. That builds your P&L by property. That builds your arrears by tenant. And actually, if we go back to the tenancies and have a look at moving on, you can see this is no longer in arrears. If we click in here and look at the rent table, September and October, you can see they are fully paid now, even though it wasn't £400 that hit my bank account on either month.
James, so I've got a couple more questions. In fact, I've got 3 more questions in there. 4 now. Amy will answer your question towards the end, so I won't forget it. Paul's asked, does it deal with agent recharge for multiple other expenses? For example, a gas safety certificate and a roof repair. So how does if the agent is managing it and they're paying the expenses on your behalf, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, so the example I showed you is probably the most common, where there's just one expense. And so when there's one expense, you just click on it. It will say the rent is less than expected, and then you pick the reason. If you have a more complicated month where there's more, then you just use our split transaction function. So let's pick this one here, £82. So with any transaction, this doesn't have to be a letting agent payment. This could even be, the first month's rent, you get the rent and the deposit all in one payment, right? So with any transaction, you can go up here and click split transaction. So if I click here, I can break this down into whatever I want. So I could say, this is £400 of rental income on Sunny Dean. It's also an expense of £150 of admin fee on, it could even be a different property. You're fully flexible. So you basically just keep building this out until your sum of your track transactions here equals your 82.21 here. And then you just hit finish tracking.
Thank you. And then Jeff's asked, can you create your own expense categories?
No. So we have an extensive list of categories. The reason we don't allow anybody to create new ones is because they obviously all map to a specific area in the tax statement. This probably also goes back to the fact that, for the first few years of our existence, we were solely selling to landlords, and we didn't want landlords who, are not experts in tax to make any mistakes, because obviously it does have, it's very important to get your tax right. Having said that, I do see a future now where we potentially would allow accountants to add categories. I don't think we would ever allow landlords to.
Thank you. Paul says, thank you for answering his question. Craig asked another question, which you've now answered. So you're doing a great job of answering questions before you even hear them, James. So well done on that. John's asked, question for when we reach that part. We use RS personal tax for our clients' end of year returns. How does the software link to that? Are we going to get to that in a minute, James?
Yeah, so let me dive into the tax piece now. So we've done the bookkeeping, and we know our P&L. We can see our tenancies all look good. Let's have a look what we're doing for tax. So for that, I'm going to jump over to the tax statement page. Now, this is the first time when it becomes important that I added those 3 different portfolios. So you can see I've got my personal properties, I've got my portfolio with my wife, and I've got my limited company. Now, if I go into my personal properties, you can see straight away at the top here, James owns 100% of this portfolio, and I've got 2 properties in here. Now I can look at this by tax year. I can also, if I really want to go granular, I can actually compare by property as well. And then we give the landlord, first of all, just a summary. So your overall for the year, your taxable income, your taxable expenses. We also, based on previously tracked transactions, we can actually give you a forecast estimate for next year's tax bill. My CEO, who kind of founded Hammock, one of his biggest pain points was that every year he would be surprised by his tax bill. So he really, this is something that's very personal to him. It's kind of trying to avoid that and hopefully allow people to actually start putting a bit of money away to pay for it. We also, this is the bit that's really good for you guys. But based on the way they've tracked and categorized their transactions, we give you the totals that you need for the SA 105. And then obviously underneath that, you've got the full list of all transactions that have been linked to this portfolio. And you can see that by date, by category, by property. And this whole page, so the summary, the subtotals, and the transactions are all downloadable as a CSV file. You can even download them with notes. So you saw when I added the note about the roof. If you want to get all the notes or anything that your landlords have left, you can do that here. And then obviously with that export, that is the point where you could then put that in any format you want to upload into Iris, etc. But as we're going to come to in a second, in terms of MTD, we're actually integrating fully with HMRC. So you would actually be able to submit directly from Hammock anyway. And just on these boxes here, these are also dynamic. So, for example, if I click on legal, management, and other professional fees, that obviously gets highlighted, and then this will only show you, the transactions that relate to that total. So you can kind of do a bit of sense checking. And then one final thing I just want to show you on the tax statement. Let me show you. So this portfolio with me and my wife. So I think, as I said at the start, my wife owns 75% and I own 25%. So when I click in here, you can see at the top, James owns 25% of this portfolio. And we still show all the same figures that I showed you a second ago, but actually, as well as showing you the 100% figure, we highlight the 25% that is James's. And again, for MTD, Hammock will then just take the figures that were the 100% figures from my other portfolio, the 25 from here, add these together, and you can submit them directly. So you don't really need to kind of do any additional calculations yourself. And what's also interesting here, if my wife Penny happens to be your client as well, guess what? She's already taken care of in this license, because you can just click across to Penny here and it'll update and it will show you her 75% as well. So if you do have husband and wife couples or brother and sister or whatever, and where both of them are your clients, you only need one Hammock license between the pair of them, which is obviously a nice win. And now one other thing I'm going to show you on the
just before you move on, I've got a supplementary question from Jenny. So I think you may have already answered it, but if the monthly mortgage payments are repayments, i.e. they include capital and interest, how does the software know what the allowable mortgage interest amount is?
Yeah, so you can split those yourself. So you can obviously do the split transaction and split that between principal and interest. Or actually, what's really exciting is, so I'll quickly If I dive into the property page, let's go into 11 Newcastle Road. So I obviously haven't shown you this page yet, but in here you've got a section on financial information. And if I go in here, you can actually list all your mortgage details in here. And so this is actually a really new feature. I think it only came in a couple of weeks ago. But the next, like version 2 of this, which will be coming soon, actually then means that when you link your mortgage payment to this mortgage, it will automatically be able to calculate that difference. So if it is, in this case, a repayment mortgage, Hammock will automatically split the interest and principal for you. And actually, while we're on this, another really interesting thing that we're going to be doing here is also adding an asset register that will help you calculate all the capital gains tax as well, because you'll already have the valuations, the dates. And so I know everybody's really annoyed with this 30-day window that you have for capital gains. We all have everything you need in Hammock already, so you'll just be able to report the number. So I hope, it's really exciting stuff coming on that side of things, actually.
Thank you. And then John's asked, rather than use CSV, could it be linked to IRS personal tax via an API?
So we're working on a lot of integrations at the moment. So the plan is to integrate with all the major bookkeeping softwares, but also all the major tax filing softwares. So tax filer, tax calc, etc. There's an awful lot coming on that side of things as well.
Thank you. Paul's asked, is the tax forecast clever enough to work out the tax based on all portfolios and add up the liabilities across all ownership portfolios, especially if the personal allowance is used up with a PAYE job elsewhere?
So currently it's done on a portfolio by portfolio basis, but again, that's the natural next step, I think, exactly what you just described there. Yeah,
so that's a big ask from my perspective. So
it is and it isn't. It's at the end of the day they are just calculations. So I don't see any reason why that wouldn't be possible.
Okay, and then Jonathan's asked, if you can submit directly to HMRC from Hammock, can you include other sources of income within it as well?
No. So in terms of submission, you would only be submitting the SA1, the UK property piece. Now, I actually had a conversation with HMRC fairly recently, and my understanding of the whole process, although I think everyone can probably agree that it's not as clear as it could be, but from everything I understand, if say Steve is my client, I can upload different parts of Steve's tax return from as many different softwares as I like. HMRC compile those together, but from any of those systems, including Hammock, I can actually extract all of the data. So even if I didn't put all the data in from Hammock, I can pull Steve's entire data out. So when I come to do the annual, whichever system is my master system, I would just pull all the 4 quarters out and then kind of use that to do the annual. So I guess a long-winded way of saying Hammock only handles property, but Hammock only needs to handle property.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you.
Cool. So just one other part of the reporting, because again, this is a new feature that came out in the last few weeks. So as well as kind of the tax statement stuff, we've just added a load of new reports. So you can see we've got general ledger, the income statement, net cash flow, rent roll, and tenant ledger. I'm just going to show you the general ledger here. So again, you have full flexibility. So I can just look by a property, I can look by portfolio, and I can look by dates or custom dates or just by tax year. So if I look back at the last tax year, I can then go through here month by month, just scroll through and get a full breakdown. So I can see the rental income, any other income, mortgage. So this is where you might see the split between interest and principal, any maintenance costs, insurance, utilities, the whole works. It basically takes you through their entire business, category by category, and actually shows them the cash flow. So there's loads of ways this can be really valuable. First of all, when you guys are sense checking your clients' accounts, obviously, if you come in here and you can see a couple of months with no mortgage payments, you probably know that they might have missed something. But equally, I think whenever I speak to accountants, the general gist I'm getting is that people want to move more and more into advisory. That's where the money is, but I think it's also just more interesting work as well. And this is the perfect thing. So if you want to start offering, on top of your property package, not only are you a specialist in property, not only do you put them on specialist software, but you can actually, sit down with them, once a year maybe, and actually run through and give them an analysis on their business. So you can take them through this. You can basically try, make sense of their cash flow, and really start advising them. When we get to the overview, I'll show you there's some other really cool things that you can bring into that to start helping your landlords think of this like a business, but also to actually start making smarter decisions so they can make more money, maybe even grow their portfolio. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff here. Now, I said at the start, I kind of do this in 3 sections. The section we've just seen is the biggest one, but the second one is the accountant dashboard. So this, let me jump over here. So this is what you guys actually will see. So everything I showed you there is the landlord platform. This is your dashboard. So you'll be in here. You can obviously see at the top how many clients, how many licenses, etc. You'll then see a list of all your clients. You've got their contact details if you kind of need to give them a quick call or whatever. And then you get their, the basic details. So you can see how they're getting on, how many properties have they added, tenancies, etc. Now, when it comes to MTD, we also manage all of the workflow. So you can sort of see these statuses here. So as we come up to a submission date, we will be chasing your landlords automatically, saying, right, you need to review and submit your details by this date. Once they've done that and they've signed off to go, yeah, I'm happy with this, then it will come over to you. You'll see it's ready to review. Then you go in, you do your checks, maybe change something, maybe you don't. And then once everything's ready, you can then just submit all of these in one go directly to HMRC. So it's going to make managing that every quarter so much easier. And then obviously for all of your clients, you can go in and you have full access. You just click these 3 dots, just click Explore Account, and then you're in and you can see everything I just showed you. So actually we haven't done the overview screen yet. I'm going to do that in a second, but we went through the rest of these, the transactions, the properties, the tenancies, the tax statements, and then the various things down here. So you have full access. And then once you're finished, you just click exit and you come back to your dashboard. And then in terms of inviting your clients, if we just go over here, you can, if you put their email address in there, that will send them a link to sign up and be added to your dashboard. Or you've got this link here, which you can incorporate into any emails. And I'll talk a bit more about how we help you onboard your landlords and how we get them on the platform a bit later, actually. And again, just equally here, for any of your staff, if you want to invite any of your staff, just stick them in here. They'll get an invite, and then they've got full access as well. Okay, so that is, that's a brief run through of kind of of what you guys do. And then the final piece I kind of want to show you guys is just the stuff that is just for the landlord. And so this is where I go over to the overview. So again, and all of this is available in the mobile app. So they have this in their pocket as well, but they can immediately see visually, just how their business is, or their properties are performing. You can sort of see if you have got any missed payments, you're usually going to have a little dip like this. We also provide property valuation estimates for the landlords. We pull that from about 8 different sources. So, Rightmove, Zoopla, property data, land registry, etc. We then get the landlord can then put in their purchase price and mortgage balance, and we'll actually track their loan to value for them. So again, when you're doing that advisory piece, this is where you can be saying to a landlord, well, actually, look, you've got a ton of equity in this property. We could actually release some of that, and you could maybe buy another property and start expanding. We will show them their occupancy rate. They can see what upcoming payments they've got, what rents are due. As I said before, like with James, his rent's due on the 28th. If that hasn't come in by the 29th, the landlord gets a notification to say, look, James hasn't paid his rent. You might want to act on that. So a lot of the notifications they get are really things that are actionable. We also show the rental yields, so they can actually compare all their properties in terms of rental yield performance. We do that based on current valuation, which is what we would always recommend. But you can just click that down arrow, and then you'll see it based on purchase price as well. And actually, if you take the LTV and the yield together, this is when you can start saying to your client, well, look, why don't you release some equity from this one? And actually, you can see this property you've got in this area has an amazing yield. Why don't we, that maybe you should explore buying more properties in that area. And that's the kind of value add that you can really start offering here. And then obviously we show them how they're getting on with their rent collection, highlight any arrears. And then the very final thing I just want to show you guys is the document section. So whenever I speak to accountants and I say, right, what feedback are you getting from your landlords? This comes up time and time again. So, not only is this where you will get all the receipts that any of your landlords have attached, but your landlord can attach all of their important documents. Now, I don't know if we've got any landlords, if any of the accountants on this call are landlords. I suspect 1 or 2 probably are. You will know just how many things you have to remember these days. And it gets more and more every year. So you've got, your gas certificate, your fire certificate, your fire alarm, your EPC, your mortgage, your insurance, and that's for every property. So you can attach all of your documents in here, link them to whichever property you want, and then set your expiry date. And so not only will do you have everything in one place. So if I ever need to come in and go, actually, I just want to check the terms of my insurance, I can just click on there and have a look. But equally, you don't need to worry about this, because as you get close to expiry, Hammock will start sending you reminders, both on the mobile app and by email. And time again, I hear from landlords, God, I never would have remembered to renew my gas cert if you hadn't reminded me. Thank you so much for that. Or, this used to really stress me out, and now I just don't need to worry about it. So yeah, really nice feature. So that is the demo. I don't know if there was any more questions, Simon.
Yeah, sorry, just turn that. We've got a couple of questions, one on the pricing and one around marketing materials. Craig's just popped in around insurances on a block policy, almost need an overhead type property account. Does that make sense to you?
Say that one more time.
So Craig said insurance is on a block policy, almost need an overhead type property account.
If I think
so Craig's got one policy for 10 properties.
Yeah, so you would just link that to your portfolio instead of a property. So you can link any document to either a property, a portfolio, or a tenant. So in that case, you just link it to your portfolio, an overall portfolio.
Perfect, thank you. And then thanks, Craig. And then Lorraine has said, how does Hammock deal with expenses paid personally or by cash?
Really good question. So obviously the bank feed is going to take care of most things, but not all things. But actually, you can add a transaction manually here. You just click add transaction manually. You fill in, is it income or expense? Put the details in here. I've actually got one for you here. So here I've added replacement of items because I had to get some new keys for my flat. You can see it was £10, but the key difference is you can see it's got in blue, this says manual, everything else says bank. So it adds it in, it creates the transaction, it feeds your P&L, but as the landlord or the accountant, it's very clear that this is something that was added manually and not something that came from the bank feed.
Thank you. So that's all the technical questions. Oh, Jenny just slipped in. Presumably, and Kim now. Jenny just put, presumably if a client joins partway through the tax year, we can do a CSV bank upload and bring things up to date rather than connecting it with a bank feed?
You don't need it. So as soon as you connect the bank feed, we can pull up to 3 years. So if if your client joins today and you haven't done the tax year for 2021, they can do that right now. They can go in, track the payments back to April 2020, and then you've got everything you need. And then obviously going forward, the automation will kick in and do most of the work anyway.
Thank you. So there's no need to do a CSV. You can just go back as far as the bank will allow you to on the when you connect it.
It varies bank to bank, but every bank will go back to at least last April. I say most go back 3 years.
Thank you. And then Kim has asked, is the premise that the landlord will enter the transactions? Most small landlords would not be able to or wish to. Is the expectation that accountants would enter it for them?
I mean, in the vast majority of cases, it's the landlord using this. I say, especially for your small landlords, there really isn't very many. Like if you've got one property, you've got rent, probably one mortgage, maybe one insurance. You track those. They start tracking automatically, and then really is a case of just if and when you spend any, if you have any random expenses, then you just jump onto your phone and categorize it. Now we do work with accountants who I know do actually do the work for them, so they'll get the client to connect the bank account, and then they manage it. But that's obviously built into their fees. That's part of the service they're providing. So it really is on a case-by-case basis. Some firms will just give this to the landlords and say, look, this is an amazing software. It's going to make your life so much easier. Look at all these additional features. Some will say, look, connect your bank account. We're going to take care of this. Download the app, and you're going to get all these amazing additional features.
Thank you. Donna's asked, do you have to use the bank feed as it's a nightmare to get most clients to sign up for it? So do you have to use the bank feed? I think you've answered that, James, as we've gone through.
Yes, I mean, you don't have to. You can mark things manually. You can add transactions manually. You can mark rents manually. So if I go into here and go into Robert Green, you can see I've got a missing payment in May. I could just click here and go actions, mark this as paid, hit save, So I can do it manually. Obviously, you miss out on a lot of the automation. But what I would always say, the accountants are the second most trusted advisor. You've got medicine, number one, and then it's accountants. And your clients do listen to you. And actually, especially with Making Tax Digital coming, this is like the perfect opportunity for you to be saying to your clients, look, the way you've been doing things is changing. Like there's no getting away from that. You have to use a digital solution. When we get to MTD, we're going to be doing 4 times as much work. We don't want to put your fees up 4 times. The way we get around that is we have to use this software. Use this at a time to actually make changes that are going to help your business. And also, ultimately, once they get over that thing of, the grumbling of like, nobody wants to change, they'll actually see, oh, wow, I'm actually now getting a much better service. I have much greater transparency over what's actually happening in my properties. And then everybody wins.
Thank you. Craig's asked another question, which I won't embarrass you by asking James, but Craig, I'm disappointed that you're asking James and not me. I'll just say that. Jeff has asked, sorry if it's been mentioned and I've missed it, but can you attach the expense receipt to the expense transaction?
Yes, you can. So you can do it again. You can do it from here or from the mobile app. So any transaction that you've tracked, you click on any transaction that's been categorized, you can add a note, or you can add a receipt. Just click here, drag and drop. Or so if you're using the mobile app, just take a photo and you're done.
Thank you.
Just looking at time, should we move on to the pricing? Because
I've got 2 quick, I think they're 2 really quick questions. And then if we move on to the pricing and the marketing, Paul's asked, is there a version that doesn't show to the landlord that they can file their own tax return online?
The landlord can't file their own tax return. Only the accountant can do that.
Okay, thank you. And then Graham's asked, for limited company clients, does the general ledger report include the capital and reserves, or is it purely an income and expenditure report?
No, there's all sorts of categories. So if we go in here, I haven't really shown you many of these, but if we go into, say, money, you've got capex, director's loan, dividends, draw. You've got everything you're going to need here, and that's all downloadable. So you'll have all the totals.
Brilliant. Thank you. So there's a couple of questions, as I say, about the pricing and one about the marketing. Just before we get on to that, can we ask Mark how would you like people to contact you, James, to take this forward?
Yeah, so there's 2 real ways. So you can just email me directly, and that's james@usehammock.com. So james@usehammock.com. Usehammock.com is just obviously our website. Or I think Mark's putting a link in the chat where you can actually just book some time directly in my calendar. One thing to note about that, I'm just going to take you through to a deal. So yeah, I'm going to take you through to a deal. The deal we're about to show you does expire at the end of this month. So if you are booking a meeting, get it in the next few days so you can take advantage of this. But Steve, I'm going to pass over to you if you want to finish off and talk about the pricing, the offer, and the way we can support the landlords.
Thanks, James. Just before you start, Steve, just to tell everybody, Mark has popped that email address and the URL to book the appointment in the chat box. All you got to do is click on the link. Okay.
Cheers, Simon. Thanks for doing that, James. So to go through the pricing, I'm just going to start by talking you through how it's priced if someone comes to us direct. So if any of your clients approach us directly, the prices that you see on the screen is what they would pay. So it's all based on number of properties that they have in their portfolio. So 1 to 3 is £5 a month. 4 to 10 properties is £10 a month. Then if they've got more than that, it's a flat fee of £20 a month under the portfolio package. So that's what they'll pay. And just bear that in mind as we go to the next slide. That's what they pay if they come direct.
Steve, I was just going to say, I think what's important to notice here is, you've probably seen lots of softwares where they give you the 3 different pricing bundles, but often the lower one is almost unusable and you almost have to use the middle or the last words. I imagine if the accountants on here are like every other accountant I speak to, the vast majority of your landlords are actually in this 1 to 3 bracket. So actually this really is the license you'll be getting, and you'll just probably have a few on these other ones.
Just to get clarity on that, Steve, because Roy's asked a question. If some properties are joint, i.e. some owned by the wife and some by the husband, is it just 1 license per property, or would that be 2 licenses for the husband and wife?
I can take that one. So it's kind of up to you. So you can, if they own the properties together, it would just be 1 Hammock license, and you add all the properties, and you set up the portfolio so it's owned by husband and wife. You put the percentages, and you just link those properties to that portfolio. So, whereas if you've got a husband and wife and they've got completely separate properties, then you'd probably give them a license each.
Okay, brilliant. So it's a license per person that you need, basically, per entity, basically. Is that right?
Yeah, but in my example, me and my wife own that property together. We just share that Hammock license. I can give my wife access to it if I want to, or in reality.
I see what you mean. So they only need a license basically if they want to, for argument's sake, maintain confidentiality, or they're completely different entities.
Exactly. Yeah. In the example of a husband and wife owning properties together, it's just one license, and if they've got 4 properties, then they've got 4 properties that it would become a pro license.
Thank you.
Steve, back to you.
Yeah, sure. So that's the price if they come direct. Now let's get to the bit for you. So one of the things that obviously Simon has pushed onto us is we need to look after all the Accountant Mastermind people. So what we brought out for you, it's available until the end of this month. And the pricing is it's 20 licenses for £20 a month. So this is really just we want you all to try the software. We want you all to get started. This is a super low price point of entry. You're getting an 80% discount. Now, to put that into context, normally we do offer discounts, but it's based on the quantity of the bundles. This is the best offer that we've ever done. Normally, you would need to buy an accessible 100 landlord licenses up front in order to get this. But for this and for yourselves until the end of the month, £20 a month, that will get you started. You can have 20 of your clients on it. What that also includes, and I did read some of the questions as we were going through, we'll also for that do 20 one-on-one onboarding sessions. So I know, again, from previous places I've worked, the amount of time it takes for you to actually onboard clients, we can do that for you. And I think to one of the points earlier around the bank accounts and everything else, I totally get that. It is tricky to get clients to act. And one thing that we've noticed is if we're doing the onboarding and we ask them to do it, they actually do it. So we can help you with that bank feed issue. We can help you with them potentially getting a Hammock current account as well. I myself have actually signed up for Hammock, and I have to say the sign up process for that current account, it took not more than 10 minutes. So when they kick up a fuss saying, oh, it takes forever, I don't want to move accounts or anything else, you need to tell them and do challenge them that they need to look at their property estates now in a more professional manner than they have in the past. Or the alternative is your workload is going up 5 times. Do you want us to put our fees up 5 times? I don't think they'll want that. If they give up 10 minutes of their time, they can set up one of our accounts. It just makes it so much easier, and it separates out their property transactions from all their personal ones. We also include staff training, so we can get you all up to speed as well. So if you've got challenges or you want to do the work on behalf of your clients, like some of you have put in the chat, again, we can help you with that. And what's not on here, but I'll answer it because it was one of the questions that came through. In terms of marketing, we're just about to launch a lot of on-demand training. So there'll be a lot of marketing online around the training, the support, which is live chat and phone support, all based out of the UK. And then for the marketing standpoint, there are a series of flyers, webinars, and if you've got enough property clients, because again, we've got some people on this call that I know will have quite large numbers of landlords that they service. If you would like us to potentially look to do some one-on-one sessions for your firm and your landlords, then we're more than happy to look into that. I think what I'd say is James's details are at the bottom. Come to us with your asks. We can always say no. So that's how you get in touch. And like I say, it brings the unit price for the £20 a month. It makes it £1 a month per landlord that you look after. Super low price point. It's designed, we've done this offer on purpose. We want you all to try it. We want you all to get going on it, because we know once you've started on this journey, you really see the benefits and you just accelerate from there. So I think that's it from us, unless there's any more questions.
Yeah, I've got some questions, Steve, if I can. So Kim's asked, how long does this offer last?
So it's a 12-month. It will last for 12 months.
So it basically, as long as you are, you've booked a meeting. So just to get clarity on it, you've booked a meeting before the 31st of October. Yeah. If you then basically sign up to use Hammock, you'll get the first 20 licenses for £20 for 12 months.
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you. I hope that answers a number of questions that we've got in there. After the 12 months, it goes up to the normal price, to the price that they would pay if they wasn't an Accountancy Mastermind member. Is that correct?
No, so this is a 12-month contract, and then it just becomes a monthly rolling contract after that.
And it would stay at £20 for 20 licenses, or it would revert to the normal price?
So, well, it would definitely not revert to the normal price, because even if you just buy single licenses from Hammock, you get a 20% discount anyway. But yeah, I think, with these, as Steve,
the plan on these is these will stay in perpetuity. It's just a 12-month commitment, and then it's a rolling monthly contract.
Exactly.
Okay, brilliant. So the £20 for 20 licenses will be there forever and a day, subject to price increases.
Subject to them wanting to keep them correct.
Yeah, and the basis of never saying never, because never's a long time scenario. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Paul's asked, how much is the onboarding after the free ones, please?
So we do offer it. What we've seen so far is it's what they'll have seen with other, bookkeeping providers and other app providers. Typically, once you fill the first 20, if you like what you're doing, then there's always potentially, additional bundles of other things like that. If not, and you want us to continue to do it in a one-on-one environment, it's £49 per session.
Okay, thank you. And I love the fact that clients respond more to you rather than the accountant. It's that age-old thing where if I tell my kids what to do, they don't do it. Whereas if somebody else comes along and tells my kids what to do, they think it's the best thing since sliced bread. And it very often happens in this relationship as well. So,
and I think it's also the fact, we've got a service delivery team that do this, that carry out these onboardings, because they're doing it day in, day out. They don't necessarily make it optional, but it comes across as very natural. And before the client, in some cases, even realised, they've just gone through the hour. And since it's only a 5 to 10 minute bit of that hour, they just do it.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you. And then there's a couple of 3 questions. If you want more than 20 licenses, what's the price?
Yeah, so we have a number of different bundles. So I think in those examples, say the details, like my contact details and book a meeting with us. So this is definitely the best deal you will get. But I can take you through all the other different bundles as well. Then there may be people on this call who have hundreds of landlords, and we do have our bundle sizes go up to 250 licenses. So yeah, just book some time. I can take you through if we can find something bespoke for your firm.
Brilliant. So that will answer Paul and Andrew's question as well. So if you book the time, and then James will go through it and make sure you're right. And then Paul's asked, sorry, is a license or a property? So it's per individual rather than per property. Is that
exactly? So each license is for the landlord, and then the price of that license is dictated by the number of properties. So I say you're getting an 80% discount on these prices, but if you're a landlord who comes to us directly, if you've got 3 properties, you pay us £5 a month. If in 6 months' time you buy a 4th property and you add that into Hammock, then from the next month onwards, you're in a pro license and you start paying £10 a month. So it works exactly the same, except you're getting an 80% discount on these prices.
Brilliant. So Lorraine, your question in the chat box, if I'm going to go for it. So as the accountant, for the starter, you'd pay £4. For the pro, you'd pay £88, and for the portfolio, you'd pay £16 basically. So there's a 20% margin in there if you want it.
If you only wanted to do single licenses, but I say our bundles start at 10 onwards, and the discounts are really nice. They're not as nice as 80%, but they're really nice. So yeah, so I think that there's something for everyone. But I say this 20 for 20 deal is incredible.
It makes the licenses £1, £2, or £4.
And for me, it's a no-brainer. So fine. Perhaps I'm not allowed to say that. But anyway,
you don't even need to pass this on. Like the time savings you're going to make, you'll make this 10 times over. If you've got a landlord with 3 properties and you're paying £1 a month, you don't need to pass that on. But what you're doing is you're providing a better service. You're saving your firm so much time, and then it means that come MTD, you're going to be ready way in advance. And you'll have actually trained your clients into a better way of working as well. So it just means you just avoid a lot of stress.
Brilliant. And just for clarity, in order to qualify for the offer, they just need to have booked the appointment before the 31st of October.
Oh, sorry, no, you need to have signed up with us by the 31st of October.
Signed up by the 31st of October.
Yeah, so we'll have the meeting. We'll go through any specific questions. If you're happy to go ahead, we send you the contract, you get it signed, and it's done. And then we start working with you to introduce this to your landlords. We'll give you the marketing, the email that we recommend you send, the links that they will need. As soon as they've registered, our onboarding team will contact them, book them in, or offer to book them in for their one-to-one session. So to be honest, some of your landlords probably won't even need it. Some of your landlords will just go on, and it's a very easy system to use. But every landlord will be offered it, and then we just start getting through them.
Thank you. So just to tidy up, I've got one more technical question, one from Donna. Does the software produce a trial balance for limited companies?
Not yet, but it's coming soon.
Excellent. Thank you. Just check that chat box. So as we said, James's email address and the URL to sign up and have a conversation with James rather than sign up and make sure it's doubly right for you is in the chat box. Mark's pop that in there again for you. Jenny's just, oh no, that's we've dealt with that one. Let me just check on the other side. No, I think we've covered those all off. Other than, why would somebody use Hammock rather than using QuickBooks or Xero to do the accounting work?
I think this comes down to certainly what we saw. When I worked, I've spent 6 years, as I said at the start, at QuickBooks, and I think my interpretation of that is we file direct for MTD, so we're a much more simpler product. But I think the other point is for this, it's all about getting your clients to use it. And whilst Xero and maybe feeding into something else like Iris, that works for a lot of accountants, it works for a lot of bookkeepers. It doesn't actually work for landlords because there's a Xero, QuickBooks Sage do a ton of things that actually landlords don't need. What we're seeing with Hammock is, it's the other side. It's no good putting a client on something if they don't actually use it. So there has to be that what's in it for them. And obviously what's in it for them is this is a very simple interface. Forget the pricing because it's all about, are they going to use it? And I think that's the biggest difference why people use landlords come to us at Hammock rather than the QuickBooks Xero and Sage, because it's the ease of use and they actually are going to work with the product. And it's giving them feedback and it's giving them those insights. Those insights are the key thing for you, because if they come back and they've got a ton of questions that the software is showing them, that's great for you as an accountant or a bookkeeper. If they're just coming to you because you've put them on something and they're completely bamboozled by the options, there's no value in that. You're just firefighting.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. So I believe that answers your question, Roy, that you asked earlier. And then the final question is from John. Do we get a recording of this webinar? And the answer to that, John, is yes. How quickly? Probably tomorrow, but we're on Thursday today. Yeah, it might be later today, but there will definitely be a recording uploaded onto the YouTube channel, and it will be sent out to everybody that's registered. So that will be on its way. We've got all the questions done. Is there anything else you would like to share, Steve or James, before we disappear?
Just say thank you very much for having us. Really, it's been really fun, and I say hopefully book in some meetings if you're interested. I'd love to take you through it in a bit more detail, and hopefully look forward to working with some of you.
Yeah, and I just echo what James has said. And when we do these sessions, it's always good when people are interactive. This is probably the most interaction I've been on a 1 hour meeting. Love it. So just thank you for not just joining, but actually participating. It makes our life so much more fun when that happens.
Yeah, I love, and that's for me, that's the crucial thing of these. As I said at the beginning, the crucial part of these conversations are the questions that you ask. Because as well as me being an accountant and knowing the accountancy questions, I'm not exactly at the coalface anymore. So the questions from the people at the coalface are always enlightening for me. So we're getting lots of thank yous in the chat box, and thank you from Paul over in the Q&A. So thank you very much for coming along. And as Steve said, thank you very much for asking the questions and allowing us to explain in more detail what it is for you that you want. So brilliant. Thank you, Steve, and thank you, James. That's all for now. We'll say goodbye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. 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 Thank you for watching the recording of Steve and James talking about how Hammock software can help you and your landlords automate their accounting records. As always, please subscribe to this channel so you get notified the next time we upload a video. Hit the thumbs up button to demonstrate that you like the video. And if you have any questions or comments, please post them below the video and we will gladly answer them. You will also see on the screen somewhere around, probably down here, the next 2 videos that we recommend you watch to inspire, challenge, and support you with your accountancy practice.